Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in today's video, we are talking about some design that everybody says is dated, that people love to rip out, but I disagree. We're gonna keep it classic, keep it timeless, and save what we can. Now, the first thing we absolutely have to talk about that I see all over social media, people ripping out, and they think they did something, okay? They did something, but it wasn't something great, is your old railing, your banister, you know, the hand-holding part on your staircase. I see people ripping them out all the time. They take out their traditional ones that are, you know, carved, and their spindles, and blah, 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 and they replace it with, like, what is essentially modular, like, cables and wiring as opposed to with some cable. No, just don't do that. Just don't do it. Yes, it looks more modern, but it also looks more industrial. Like we may see it somewhere that, you know, is built quickly, affordably, and made to be, you know, substantial, like a prison, for example. And while orange is my color, I don't want to live there. I would like the banister and the railings in my home to be a little more classic. And that doesn't mean it has to be traditional. It just means that it should fit into the normal concept of what these are. Now, also some people are going to say glass railings. And glass railings, I have a love-hate relationship with. I love to look at them, but I would hate to live with them because glass has to be cleaned and it gets dirty. It shows every fingerprint, all of it. And I just don't love that. You know, more maintenance than I have to take care of isn't something that excites me. Also, I don't love the top of a glass railing because there's no hand hold there. There's nothing you're gripping onto. It's a piece of glass. So if you needed that to steady yourself, or if you were like, oh, I'm gonna fall, like grab onto it, your grip isn't gonna be great on a piece of glass as it will be on an actual banister. So I just think reinventing the wheel in that place isn't necessary. Now, I will say that you might have that traditional banister and you're like, oh, it looks a little old, or it's not really fitting in with what we're doing, the renovation we're doing, or you just are looking for a change, and that's okay. Everybody finds themselves there at some point where they want to change something, but they're like, should I rip it out? Should I get rid of it? Let me tell you, I don't think it's worth it because this is very expensive to do. It has a lot of repair work so that you can then replace it with something else, and we just don't make it like we used to. We just don't, and that's the reality of it. So I would rather see you gel stain or ghost coat something. I'd rather see you paint it in 2 tones or something like that. Have that work done because it's something your hand touches has to be done really durably and sturdy, and it has to last. So I want to have painters out there that know exactly what they're doing so we can get that correct. Or you could even take it to that next step and have that stain to fit the new design or style you're bringing into the space. And here's a big takeaway I want you to get is that mixing different styles together is what makes a space have personality. It's what makes it feel authentic and genuine and curated over time. So if you have a traditional home or you live in an area where there's just a lot of those Colonials and Georgians, you don't redo everything. Don't make it something that it's not, because there's no point in that. You're gonna spend all of this extra money doing something that really is not necessary, and a lot of people are expecting to see something else, and so it may not be a welcome change. It's really great to reinterpret traditional spaces in modern ways and bring in modern furnishings and colors. You can really update something without having to gut or rip anything out, because at the end of the day, if something is good, if the quality is right, if it's durable, if it's sturdy, if it's going to last, why are we going to rip it out? Why do we have to redo it? It doesn't, just because you don't like the way something looks doesn't mean it's not serviceable and we can't make it work. And that, I think, is a big takeaway I want you to have when it comes to interior design and interior designers in general. I'm not the person that says, rip it out, start over, it's trash, we have to let it go. I'm going to say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we're trying to achieve. How do we make that work? How can we reinterpret that and reimagine that? And if you're in the position where you're looking to have that done in your home and you've got that thing you just don't have the answer for, I've got you covered. You can always book a one-on-one interior design consultation with me using the link in the description box down below or going to intro.co/GarrettLeChic. And we're a few days out from the holidays, so remember, these consultations make a great last-minute holiday gift, and remember, the times listed are shown in your time zone. Now, the next thing I see people love to replace online, or they'll be like building something new and be like, oh, we have to do something different, is the square fireplace. They love to get rid of a square fireplace. They love a linear fireplace. And I've beaten this. over the head plenty of times already. I don't like them. It just doesn't do it for me. I think it takes a very specific space and scale to make that work and fit in. And I just don't think most homes have that. Plus, once again, there is something to be said for reinventing something traditional and using it in a modern way. So we take a square fireplace and do a modern style mantle on it, or a more traditional style mantle, and juxtapose that with more modern furniture. I think you can really update a home just with the furniture, just with the paint colors. So redoing a square fireplace into a rectangular or linear fireplace, I don't think it's necessary, and I think it already looks kind of dated to me, in my opinion. And even if you're not doing like an actual wood burning fireplace, I've never seen a wood burning fireplace outside of an authentic mid-century home that was linear in nature. So I think that's a takeaway to have there also. You see them mostly when they're gas or electric. I don't think the electric ones are very convincing. I don't particularly, I've never seen one that I thought like, oh wow, that's really amazing. I had one client who was considering one, and we kind of had a conversation about her inspiration and style, and she ultimately decided, you know, like maybe I'm just trying to come up with something different here for the sake of it, which I think is what a lot of people do. Now, if you really want this and you want it to work, I think it takes a large space that has a very linear feeling to it, or you want to achieve that linear look, because that's what the linear fireplace does. It creates a horizontal line, and in most homes a horizontal line will bring the ceiling height down and make it look a little shorter. So you have to have a space where you've got taller ceilings to bring them down for a horizontal fireplace to work. I don't think it works in a 2-story space, however. I think that's a little bit much, because now it looks very squat and low to the ground. So I think you really have got to put a lot of consideration into that and say, what are we doing above it? Because if you're like, we're gonna put a big massive TV there for the height, yeah, okay, I get where you came up with that from, but for the overall design and aesthetic, that TV is going to be so large and overpowering because it is so much taller than the fireplace is, that you're not really gonna see the fireplace. It's gonna be like a little line on the wall. So I just don't love a linear fireplace. I think that we're reinventing the wheel here for not a good reason. That square fireplace, it's a classic detail that a lot of homes already have, if you even have a fireplace. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't want one or need one, and that's okay. In my home, even though I live in the desert, I live in Las Vegas, I have a wood-burning fireplace, and we absolutely love the shape of it, the size of it, the warmth it brings to the space, especially during this holiday season. So a square fireplace is not something I think I could ever live without. As a matter of fact, if I was to look at a home that had a linear fireplace, the number one thing we would have to do is change it out to something else, because I just don't think it fits the design style and narrative most people have for their spaces, and I don't think you have to get rid of your square fireplace in favor of a more modern linear fireplace. Now, the next thing that I see a lot of people getting rid of, replacing, updating, or changing out is their old sink. Yeah, the sinks in your bathrooms, the sinks in your kitchens. I don't think you have to redo them for something like in a bathroom, for example. I don't want to see a vessel sink. I know they're having their moment, they're trending again. I don't like it, I don't want to see it. The number one reason I really don't like vessel sinks is because you have to drop your counter height to accommodate the sink, right? We want it to stay at that same level, usually 36 inches. So in order to have a bowl like sink on top of your countertop, you have to drop the countertop to keep the sink at the correct level where it's comfortable to get your hands into it. And the truth of the matter is, most people that say, I want a vessel sink, it's the newest thing, they don't drop the cabinet height down, because that would be a custom feature, more expensive to do. So basically they're just putting a vessel sink on top of an already tall countertop, and the vessel sink is like way up here and I'm like a little dinosaur washing my hands. I don't like that. The dinosaur energy is not mine. So now we've dropped our countertop down. If I need to do anything there, the countertop is like 6 inches, 9 inches lower than I'm expecting it to be. I don't think we need that. I don't think it's really functional or useful. I don't think it's just unnecessary in my opinion for something that's purely design, purely aesthetic. I think a vessel sink could work in a powder bathroom. I think that's an interesting place for it, because we don't have people doing their hair, doing their makeup and getting ready and all that stuff in a powder bathroom, right? That's purely just, we're using the restroom, we're washing our hands, and we're going back out to the party, which I love. But you know, vessel sink is fine there. In like primary bathroom, in a hall bathroom, like, you know, the kids' bathroom, no. I just think it's one of those trends where it's like you see it in a magazine, you see it in a photograph or a video. Like, I'll show you pictures here where it looks good. You know, it's really pretty. The design is great. The aesthetics are there. The functionality for me isn't. And I think that takes priority. Functionality over the aesthetic 99% of the time. There are certain instances where I'll make a little sacrifice just to up the ante a little bit, but it's not going to be in a sink where I'm washing my hands because there's so much cleaning that has to happen. Water splashes out because it's a dome shape. It's like if you put a spoon under the faucet in the kitchen, like the water goes everywhere. That's what happens on a vessel sink. I'm not interested in it, not in my bathroom, not in my home, because I'm not cleaning up after it. Now, of course, if you have it, if this functions and works for you and you really like it, don't rip it out, go for it. Not everything works for every single person, and that's okay. But really give this some serious thought before you put this into your home if you're planning a renovation. You have to have the correct depth of faucet for a vessel sink. That's a big thing people don't talk about. The faucet, the neck on it has to be a certain depth to really work and function for it. You also have to have a very specific level of water pressure, which is very hard to control. Like maybe you have to add extra aerators onto your faucet, which is a whole other thing that I'm not messing with. I just don't think this functions for most people. And I think your old sink is fine. Even if it's a drop-in sink, that's okay. It still works well, and that's nice. When it comes time to redo the countertops or redo the sinks and all of that, you're doing a little update here or there, that's when we go for the under-mounted sink. Yeah, it looks cleaner, it's a little more modern. It's not going to change your life to have an under-mounted sink. It really cleans up the aesthetic and nice, and that's something I'm gonna recommend if you're doing a bathroom renovation, but it's not something I think that you absolutely have to do at this moment. And I'm gonna tell you in your kitchen when we're doing a renovation to do an apron front sink because they're life-changing. Once you have that apron front sink, you will never go back. And I love that for you. Speaking of something else I'd love for you, that thing that I love for you is my great design advice and aesthetics. So I would love it and I would greatly appreciate it if you would become a part of our GarrettLeChic family by hitting that subscribe button and joining us. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it means the world to content creators like me. I post 2 videos a week all about great interior design, what to do and what to steer clear of. So be sure you change your life and elevate your home by joining us. I would also greatly appreciate it if everyone watching could give this video a like. The next thing that a lot of people are gonna tell you to get rid of that I think is dated, but you can make work in your home is Shiplap. Ooh, I know the modern farmhouse girls are shaking, they are quaking, they're like, my time has come again. Well, let's not go that far, but I don't think you have to take out your shiplap for a couple of reasons. Number one, you probably messed the wall up underneath it when you put it in, right? If you glued it on there, if you nailed it in there, you're gonna have a bunch of glue, holes, it's gonna be messed up. Don't rip it off and open up a can of worms. And I don't think it's worth messing with because the shiplap is really not that bad. I did shiplap ceilings in our home because I just wanted to have a decorative detail, an interesting feature on the ceilings to draw your eye up to them a little bit because we have 8-foot ceilings in this house, and you would never believe it because I used tricks like I feature in my How to Make Your Small Home Look Larger video, which is linked right up here. You should check that out. But that's an interesting place I did it, and I really like it. It adds a nice detail, but in a lot of homes we saw shiplap and it was just way overdone. Okay, everybody was doing it. It was like, I have a blank wall. What should I do here? Should I get a piece of art? Should I decorate it? No, I should do shiplap. I think we can make the shiplap work by painting in an interesting color. Yes, an interesting color, something other than white or black, like we saw enough of it, but give me something earthy, something organic, something interesting, and I think that shiplap can actually work and be very elevated and be interesting. And I love that about design, is that we can reinterpret and reimagine something that was really dated or oversaturated, overdone, people are tired of, into something interesting. And we can breathe new life into a space just simply by changing the color of the walls. Really think on that. Give some thought into what can I do with this. Right now, what is really popular in modern and contemporary interior design is doing a different finish or feature on each wall. So maybe these 2 walls will be wrapped in a wood detail and that'll be painted a color. This will have wallpaper and that'll be an interesting texture. Maybe it's tiled, and layering all of these different materials together to serve as a backdrop and almost create designated areas within a space. And that's something you can consider with this shiplap. You could paint it an accent, or you could paint that flat wall and the shiplap, those 2 colors, and it would be great. The thing to think about with shiplap when you're painting it is that there are a lot of grooves and it's not easy to get into. So once again, I'm not gonna be telling you go and paint it all yourself and you can do an amazing job on it, because probably not. I would hire someone in to get that really done, beautifully sprayed and looking good, because a smooth surface is more difficult to paint yourself. We all know this, but painting your shiplap, reimagining what it can be, will really have a big impact. And I also always look at shiplap when it's a white shiplap and it looks nautical to me. It always says like ocean, boat, beach house type of a feeling. So painting it a different color could take you out of that more nautical place and into something that feels a little bit more genuine to your personal style. And I love that. But I don't think, you know, a lot of these accent walls people were really invested in. I don't think you have to get rid of them or redo them. I think that reinterpreting them, just rethinking the color they're painted in, could be something really interesting to consider and give your home just an interesting feeling and take on something that we've seen a lot, but might be unexpected in your space. Now, one of the biggest things you could change in your home, one of the most costly renovations you can do, and most people will in their home, is changing out the floors. Yes, your flooring, your old flooring. Not all old flooring should be saved. I will be honest and say that, because sometimes we're replacing it for a durability issue or a wear issue. Like if it's worn out, if it's just looking terrible, there's no salvaging it, okay? Let's just let it go and redo it, okay? But when I see people redo their flooring, I often see them think they have to do something different. If we're replacing it, we have to replace it with something different. And that's not always the case. I don't think you always have to reimagine what you're putting on your floor or one of the major features of your home when you're redoing something. You can repaint your walls the same color they are just to refresh the color and the quality of them and just brighten the space up, right? Like you can do that. It's not gonna hurt you if you really like something. So if you have to replace flooring in your home, you don't have to do something different than was already there, or you don't have to replace something that's perfectly good. The amount of people I see online who are like, oh, I hate the floors, or the cherry floors in my house are so terrible, they have to go, and want to replace them is shocking. But you know what? I love cherry floors. I love cherry floors. It's so beautiful. It's such a great wood tone. That's why it was so popular and why we see it so much. It's a great color to have on your floors, honestly and truly. I believe that, and I think it can be worked with. Actually, I had a client who had cherry floors and she didn't want them because they were not wearing well for her dog. So we decided to replace them with a cherry wood look tile. Yeah, because that really worked for her personal style. So we were able to replace the floors with something more durable and better quality for her, but we didn't have to change or do anything groundbreakingly different to achieve that in her space. And you could do that anywhere. I think it's more important to do an all-encompassing design, really take in what is the style we're going for, what is the style of the home, and then say, what should we do for the floors here? Because if you have a great colonial home and you have a, colonial kind of style to it, we don't need to replace the floors with like a wide oak, white oak plank flooring, because it just doesn't fit the style of the home. Like we can go for something more mid-tone. And the opposite's also true. You don't have to replace tile with wood floor. You don't have to replace carpet with wood floor either. If you really like the carpet, if you live in a cold climate, you're like, I love carpet in bedroom. Okay, let's think about what can we do for carpet in those bedrooms. Does it have to be something groundbreaking or some different color or whatever? Honestly, I like a creamy white colored carpet. I don't think you have to replace your floors with something different just because you're redoing them. And I almost always online see people do that. They think they have to reinvent everything in their home. It's like concrete floors are back in. I don't like concrete floors. I don't want concrete floors in my home. Where do I expect to see concrete floors? Maybe at like a sloppy little bar where they want to hose the floors down. I don't know. Maybe like in a dog kennel. Okay, I don't like that though. I don't want my home to be like that. So that's something I'm seeing that I would never do because I think it's unnecessarily inventive. Keeping what you have or replacing it with the same thing or something similar is your best bet. You don't always have to change what you're doing just because something has to be replaced. Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in today's video, we are talking all about some things that are considered dated, but interior designers actually love. Now, before we get started, be sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Now, the first thing we have to talk about that designers love, that a lot of people would consider dated, and I know they do, are actually vintage and antique accent chairs. The reason I say I know you think they're dated is because people get rid of them all of the time. We see it all over social media. Somebody finds something at a thrift store or I don't know, like a Goodwill. All of the time, designers love these sorts of things. Now, of course, they're probably not getting them from thrift stores or flea markets. They're gonna go to, the Paris flea market or, Round Top and all of these things. But vintage accent chairs are amazing, and it just depends on the scale and size and what you're looking to achieve. A real antique accent chair is maybe not something that is super usable on a daily basis. So that's something, if I have it, I'm gonna use it to accent a space, to flank a table against a wall. It's not something we're sitting in. It's something that is serving a purpose. And I love an accent chair to increase the scale of like a console table against a wall. It's a great way to create an elongated shape on something without having to spend the money on something that's larger. And the great thing about an accent chair is that sometimes they're cheaper than buying something brand new, or at the very least the same quality brand new that you can bank on. So I think they're great for that. A mid-century accent chair still has an appropriate enough scale to be used in a seating arrangement, in my opinion, because they're a little bigger, a little oversized, and they have a more open kind of feeling to them. A lot of designers will take a mid-century accent chair and use it to juxtapose whatever style is happening. So if you're doing super contemporary, some things might feel like they're kind of from a box store. So let's add in something unexpected and wild, like that mid-century accent chair that's got a sculptural shape or some lines to it to really set the space off, create that accent, create some personality, but still have the functionality. Something else that designers love, keeping it in the same niche of an interesting accent point and adding character, is vintage lighting. Vintage lighting is great because we just don't make it like we used to. And you all know that's true. Vintage lighting is a little trickier though, because some things have to be rewired and customized, but mixing modern and antique lighting together is one of my favorite things in the world. I just think it feels elevated and interesting, unexpected, and lighting also really sets the stage for what you are aiming for stylistically in a space. So I love a vintage chandelier. I'm not going to use a ton of them because they are a little more difficult to source and, rewiring and everything, but a lot of designers love a vintage Murano glass light fixture or chandelier because they are very sculptural and interesting. And if you have a very contemporary space, they actually kind of set everything off and they make everything else look more contemporary because they look very traditional, very kind of classic. And also, do not write off vintage lamps. Those are some gems, especially modern and mid-century modern style lamps are some of the best out there. They are genuinely some of the best because once again, that sculptural quality to them really speaks volumes, especially if you are using it in a space that has some traditional undertones or some features, some details, some accessories that are in that traditional realm. Just having those two different things there fighting each other, it creates a beautiful tension in a space. That whole realm of lighting is really wonderful because it's less direct lighting. We don't see exposed bulbs. It's not like, hey, we have a traditional lampshade here. It's very interesting in the way it cascades light and projects it, might be downward or onto a wall. That indirect lighting feels softer and natural and just nicer and more enjoyable to be around. Vintage lamps are a designer's favorite, and there are plenty of resources you can find for them. Once again, you can find them at some of those interesting places, thrift stores, yard sales, that sort of stuff, but don't write off some of those more curated online sources. Etsy is a great place, Cherish is a great place, First Dibs is a great place. All of them have wonderful lighting. Get inspired by what you see there for your space, and once again, create that juxtaposition. Designers love it. No matter what size project you're working on, be it big or small, getting some feedback or advice from a designer is a good idea. So be sure you check out the link in the description box down below, or go to intro.co/GarrettLeChic to book a one-on-one design consultation with me. I work on projects that are large and small and answer my clients' questions to avoid them having those design regrets later. So be sure you head down there and check it out. Now, something else that some people might consider dated, but designers love is a traditional rug. There's a time and a place for everything, and I'll always believe that. And in some spaces, I need a more modern rug. I need a solid colored rug. That's one of the biggest rug trends that's happening right now. It is something worth thinking about if you have a space that already has a lot of pattern. But designers love a traditional rug, and that can mean so many different things. But I'm looking for traditional manufacturing, and I'm looking for traditional colors and patterns. And I might not use all three of those at once, but they are definitely something worth thinking about. Now, what does all of that mean? Traditional manufacturing might be a hand-knotted rug that's made by hand, and I like that because it offers customization and quality. I also really like a traditional pattern on a rug, and I may not opt for that in a traditional colorway so that it feels more modern. Something that's tonal, that's more muted, and doesn't have high contrast is really wonderful. Right now, pastels are very in, right? They're very fun, they're very bright, people like that. We're liking some positive energy in our lives and in our homes right now. So those are really good too, but that's not necessarily the most traditional thing. And you can have a play on that. You may even have a play on that traditional pattern in a more modern way. Traditional rugs are something designers love because it's an easy thing to fall back on. They're always timeless, they're always classic, they're always going to be around, and they have been forever. You can find vintage rugs that are a really good deal and great quality too. So be on the lookout for all of those. Designers love to use a traditional styled rug. And I will also say that you can find rugs that are very affordable, that maybe they're not the single most high quality rugs in the world. Okay, maybe you want something that's more on the budget friendly side. I totally respect that. You can find something that feels a lot higher end or more expensive than it is by looking for something that has a slightly more traditional pattern to it. Maybe it has modern colors in it. Maybe those muted tones are really wonderful for your home, but it may look more expensive if you use something that's a little more traditional instead of something that is a flat, solid colored rug or very geometric in its pattern. Those tend to stand out, and you may not want that in your home. When I am looking for a rug, I want something that has a little bit of variation in color. That to me is always going to work in a space. They're easier to work with because we can mix lots of different shades and tones of the same color together to create something that feels really unexpected and elevated. Be on the lookout for those rugs. There goes Arden popping in to say hello. Hi, you gonna have a nap on my lap? Yeah, that's cute. That's a good boy. Okay. Now, Arden, let's talk about the next thing that people might consider dated, but designers absolutely love, and those are candlesticks. Designers love candlesticks. And I know they're dated, okay? I know people think they're dated because, once again, on social media, everybody's finding them at thrift stores and flea markets, and you can find some of the most interesting things. Candlesticks are really good accessories. And the reason they're really good accessories is because they're smaller, they're lighter, and they're easier to contrast within the space stylistically. Because they are easy to use, they're good accessory pieces, they're good for styling, and they tend to be relatively affordable when you find them. Look for some that either have a different height if you're putting them near each other, or are exactly the same if you're going to create some symmetry using them. That's always a good thing to keep in mind. And you also want to find the correct type of candle for them. I'm gonna link some of my favorites on my Amazon storefront in the description box down below. Check that link out because, you know, sometimes it's hard to find some good ones. And you can also add specific colors into your space. There's so many good reasons designers love these. A lot of it is because they're smaller, they're more affordable and accessible, they're really easy to use style pieces, and they're good entertaining pieces as well. You don't always find things that meet all of that criteria. Designers love candlesticks, and you can find them absolutely everywhere. So be on the lookout for some good ones, and so be on the lookout for some good ones because there is a designer that's gonna come up behind you and grab them if you don't. You see, I am always on the lookout for you, and I am always going to bring you a different perspective than what you see across social media. I'm gonna give you the truth and the real tea that you need to know about every week in these videos, so be sure you hit that subscribe button and join us. Become a part of our LeChic family. We are elevating homes one at a time. Be a part of the movement by hitting that subscribe button and joining us. And be sure you give this video a like. Something that is dated that designers love, I see so many designers use all of the time, is actually animal print. And I know you're like, what? Garrett, are you serious right now? I am absolutely serious. Designers love animal print, and it may not be the way you're expecting it to be, but designers will use animal print all of the time in every way. Now, there are so many different variations of this. I mean, I have green giraffe pillows that are really wonderful for spring actually, but I don't use them all the time because they are very bold. Some designers are gonna love that. They're gonna have things that are bold and poppy and colorful and, you know, like tiger print on chairs. That's a big thing right now. Some designers will use these in neutral variations, right? They're gonna do that tiger print in all beige. Okay, some people just love beige. It's a good neutral. There's also like a fawn print that a lot of designers love to use that is really beautiful as well. You can use leopard, you can use ocelot. A lot of designers love to use a very graphic, high contrast, black and white zebra print. That's also something that's very popular. Designers love an animal print because they layer really nicely and there is always a certain gradient in the colors used within them that makes them easy to blend into a space. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, crazy, wild. You use them all over the place. An animal print and an accent pillow is easy to use, easy to mix in. It's something different. It's not a solid, it's not a geometric, it's not a floral. So there are certain places you can use it and other places you have to be very careful with it, which is why I don't personally use it all that often. I would rather see, you know, here's the thing about me. I don't love a lot of accent pillows, and I think that's the most natural place to use an animal print. So I'm probably only gonna have like 2 to 3 pillows on a sofa, 1 on a chair, if that. So I don't need to layer a lot of that together to make it feel natural. I can do a solid, a geometric, or a stripe, something like that. So, you know, I might do like a toile or a floral moment or something like that. That's okay, and that works naturally. You can also just find some things that are a little textured, a little fuzzy, or that sort of thing. I don't think you need animal print, but a lot of designers love it, and it is a go-to for them. You have to be careful with it, so keep that in mind if you are going to use this animal print in your space, and be sure you're not using too much of it or mixing too many of them together because that might look a little bit wild, if you will. Something that a lot of people will tell you are dated, a lot of design commentators, not designers, design commentators will tell you is dated, but designers absolutely love are picture frames. I love a good picture frame. I love a picture frame. I love a family photo. I love having that personal moment in a space is essential to creating a home. Not a house, a home. There's a difference there. But a lot of people will tell you like, nobody wants to see your family photos. If you don't want to see my family photos, then why are you here? Okay, why are you coming over here? If you don't want to see my family, if you don't like that, if you don't like me, why are you here? You're probably not, because I wouldn't invite you. So having family photos for me, do it. That's for you, not for everybody else. And if everybody else enjoys it, good on them. And if they don't, there's the door, they can go. There is a time and a place for them and a way you can use them strategically, not just covering every surface or hanging them on every wall. I think you have to be methodical in how you use them. I love a picture frame that's on a tabletop or a surface. Cover your mantle with them. That's fine. Put them on an entry table. Love that. I'd also go as far as to say, I love seeing like drawn pictures by children. I think it's whimsical. I think it's fun. You can use that. And I think it's great. Have an interesting way to display them and you're good to go. Family photos are also nice to rotate through for the holidays. When, you know, that one holiday comes around, Easter, Christmas, whatever it is, Thanksgiving, you can rotate those photos through from photos of past holidays. And that's super fun, a great way to decorate for the holidays without having to put a lot of stuff everywhere, and it's nostalgic from a holiday past. Really wonderful, I love that idea. Do not let these social media interior design commentators who are trolling for comments tell you that you don't need to have family photos in your home, because I am telling you designers absolutely do this and they love it. It's one of the easiest ways to make a house feel like a home, to make them personal for our clients. Do it all of the time. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Something else that people will tell you is dated, but designers love, never stopped using, never will stop using, are florals. And I don't mean like a floral arrangement, I mean floral prints on fabric. Designers love a good floral moment, and there's so many reasons for this. I would say the biggest is because it is a reference or a callback. We love a good callback, a callback to nature. Nature in a home, bringing in that natural element is wonderful. And you can reference the outdoors inside through a floral print. And also, what I think is so interesting about a floral print is that florals are seasonal, right? The seasons change, the outdoor environment changes. You can have an effect on a space stylistically by embracing a floral pattern in that season of colors. And that's really interesting to me, and I love doing that too. I don't use a ton of florals because They are very specific, taste specific, style specific, depending on the way you use them. Also because a lot of people think maybe it's timeless, maybe it's not here for a long time, maybe it's, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of thought about it where people tend to gravitate towards solids and neutrals and things like that, but you can use a floral really successfully in your home if you find the right one for you and the right scale of pattern. You have to have a strong solid to contrast that floral with. You pull some of the tones out of whatever that is, whether it's a wallpaper or a fabric, and then you find solids in that color. So if I'm gonna use floral wallpaper, I'll probably go for a solid colored rug and solid colored drapes so that I get a strong balance, a grounding element in the space to contrast that. You have to do that to make it feel natural. Using a floral has to be done strategically. You have to be thinking about it and the tones within that. Another great thing about a floral print is that they tend to have that variation in color and tone again. It just makes it easier to mix different things that are store-bought together and not have to go custom on everything. Because sometimes as a designer, you have a client who has a really big budget and we can do a lot of interesting things, but just because some clients might have that doesn't mean every client does. So how are we getting creative to make the same effect happen, but on a smaller or a tighter budget? We can absolutely do that. A floral is just one of those ways. It's just a, you know, a reference point. Designers love a floral moment, but they're not for every space, and you can use them in more modern feeling ways and create an interesting space by using something that's a little more tonal, a little darker in color in terms of like wallpaper or a fabric or an accent that blends into the background a little bit more. That serves as texture, more as a contrast. It's just something that we notice afterward. It's a secondary accent point. It's not something that our eye is going to stop on and be like a contrasting element, a poppy moment in the space. It's something that I'm not going to notice that accent pillow until I sit down on the sofa and I say, oh, wait a second, that's a floral. That's really great for you. I love that. Those are the elements you want to bring into a space. A main accent, you can use a bold contrasting floral for, but you can also make them feel more modern by using something that is a little bit more minimal, is a little bit more refined. Maybe it's something that's larger scale, so we're not looking at the full like floral moment, high contrast detail. We're just looking at a little segment of it and I'm kind of saying like, what is that? That's interesting to me. That's the most important takeaway here. Use things that are unexpected and interesting into your space to develop personality, contrasting styles in a space. That is always going to make your home look more expensive, more luxurious, and it will stop anything in your home from feeling dated. You can take these dated elements, mix them with things that are modern to make your home feel timeless. Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett and thank you for spending some time with me today because in this video, we are talking about some dated interior design styles that are secretly timeless and how to make them work and last forever in your home. Now, the first style we have to talk about is one of the most popular architectural styles of the last 45 years, and that is Colonial. Now, Colonial gets associated with being like old or heavy, dated, and a lot of people will see these homes and be like, yeah, I don't like it, everything has to go, and we have to change everything. And that's kind of this like fight or flight mentality where you see something you don't like, it has to go. But the reality is Colonial serves as a really good foundation for building something modern on top of. And what I mean by that is Colonial details are great to incorporate no matter what the design of that home is, be it something that's ultra modern or really timeless, or you're going for something differently. If you want to do like French country in a Colonial home, you can do that as long as you keep those Colonial details because they tend to be really neutral. Some of those details are going to be baseboards and the trim on doors, the doors themselves, cabinetry door profiles, even like I see a lot of times people take out Colonial style fireplace mantles because they're like, it's old and it's dated, and it's like, is it or is it timeless and classic? Those are the details that are really good to stick with. And then we can modernize some of the things. You can bring in ultra modern, really contemporary furniture and modern color schemes to really update a Colonial style home without having to like completely gut and rip everything out and start from scratch. A conversation that I have had with many clients as of lately is actually all about flooring. A lot of their homes have thinner plank flooring. That was really popular with Colonial style homes. And they're like, do I take it all out and do wide plank, or do I replace it with like an LVP or something? And I always say to them, and like I said, multiple clients have had this conversation with me, and I always say, I would much rather you refinish, stain that something different, lighten and brighten it up, go for something more neutral instead of like a really heavy red oak or orangey kind of color, and do just an expansion of what's there. It's a really good quality material, so why not stick with it? And that's the whole point, the takeaway I want you to have here. A lot of these newer homes are thrown together really quickly, and they lack style in a specific area, as where some older homes, you get a lot of that, and the quality actually tends to be pretty decent. So that's what I want to preserve and keep, because it's going to save us a lot of money on the budget. That means we can do a lot more in other places. Colonial details I look to add into a home are going to be in hardware, like if we're talking about we're redoing a kitchen, add a decorative edge onto a countertop, add some hardware that has a little bit of that traditional reference to it. Maybe instead of doing a shaker door, we do something with a little bit of an extra trim detail. Boom. It's close enough, it references enough of those details that it feels timeless, it feels classic, and you can then apply some modern colors or materials to that to really make it feel updated and relevant and timeless always, but reflective of your personal style. Now, another dated style that I see people hate on, and I love to hate on it too, let's be real, is actually Hollywood Regency. But there is like a caveat here, because Hollywood Regency as of late has slipped into the glam style, and that's what we all like to kind of poke a little fun at. But if you like that glam style and look, where you have a lot of reflective surfaces, a lot of tufting and details and layers and all of the things, I love that, okay? I think it can be great when it's applied to the Hollywood Regency style. Now, Hollywood Regency is actually kind of an offshoot of mid-century, and you can have it in like a mid-century home. You can also have it in more of a Georgian or a colonial style home, but it's a great style because it has a lot of glamour, a lot of polish. It has an emphasis on scale, proportion, and grandeur. However, it also has a great sense of polish to it, and warmth is the most important thing to remember. So when you have a glam style, a lot of times you'll see like a mirrored piece of furniture with pewter trim. Ooh, yeah, okay, like that's very glam. But if that pewter trim was gold, it would be Hollywood Regency. And that's what I see all of the time, like on Facebook Marketplace here locally. I see that mirrored furniture that was super on trend, like 10 years ago, listed for dirt cheap, but the quality is really good. I mean, mirrors are good quality, right? It's glass, okay? It's glass, it has to be built really sturdy because they're very heavy. The quality tends to be good. So if I could get a piece like that at a really good deal and then repaint all of the trim to be gold, that's a really good Hollywood Regency style piece. Now, Hollywood Regency also has a focus on grandeur and scale and proportion, so you may see oversized vases and big floral arrangements, and that's okay and that's fine. Great places to add some of this detail into your space. Look for light fixtures and chandelier. Pretty much any style, as long as it has like a gold detail, will work beautifully in this style. Crystal details, cut crystal is really great for this. A lot of those things lean into the glam style without being tacky, without being overdone, without being not timeless, but Hollywood Regency has so many of those wonderful details that are very timeless and can be incorporated into any style that has a more traditional sensibility to it. So these are pieces to think about in your space, even if you're not committed to this overall style. I get it. It's a lot. It's not modern. It's not the direction things are headed in right now, but that doesn't mean it can't be timeless if it's done well. And with that said, there is a big difference between Hollywood Regency and glam. And when I speak to a client about a glam style, I always advise they lean into that Hollywood Regency a little bit so that we have that timeless sensibility and classic feeling in the space, and it won't feel dated or like it's over decorated or done. And that's something really important. You always want to make sure in your home that it's not overdone and that you are using a good sensibility when you're decorating, whether that's in your color scheme or the furniture choices, the materials you're choosing, which is why I say work with a designer. You can always book a one-on-one virtual design consultation with me where you can show me your home and I can answer some of your questions. You can book that using the link in the description box down below or by going to intro.co/GarrettLeChic. Now, while I work on every space, big and small, be it apartments or, McMansions, that's fine too. I have a lot of clients that come to me with very specific styles of architecture, okay, from mid-century to those colonial homes. But one of my favorites to work on, and something a lot of people trust me with, surprisingly, is actually cabin design. I have a lot of clients who have cabins for whatever reason. Like, I never thought that would be my niche, but a lot of people trust me with it because I think they know I'm not just gonna say paint all of the wood. And that's one of the best parts about cabins and cabin design is the wood and the natural detail. But what I always advise my clients is like, hey, we're not gonna paint all of this because why would we? Okay, like we have great wood, we're not gonna get rid of it. But how do we take and break this up? How do we provide a strong enough grounding element? Because that's what I see as the issue with cabins and why they feel dated. There's just a lot of heaviness there. There's a lot of visual static and movement visually where things just appear to be busy and you cannot focus in on them. They feel really warm and comfortable, and that's great, but sometimes using too many layers or too many details or leaning too much into the like cutesy side of things can be your downfall. So when I'm working on a cabin, I advise my clients to say any wall we have that we can paint, okay, like if it's a drywall wall and we're gonna paint it, let's take it into a easy to see but not heavy color. So off-whites and creamy tones. I may go for something a little darker. I love a moody tone in a cabin because it really gives a lot of that warmth. But when you have something that's a really stark contrast with wood, it will stand out. So if you paint the walls white next to wood, it's going to stand out. Sometimes that's a good thing. But in a cabin where you have more wood than white, I don't want the focus to be on a big white wall. So instead of using a stark white, let's go for a creamy white, something with some softness to it that doesn't compete. Then let's look at some darker colors maybe that are really moody or a little heavier and saturated. I'm going to take whatever wall color we're choosing. Like I just advised a client to do green, a natural muted green tone. I want to pull that into the space somehow in some of the details and accessories. I also want to be consistent about wood tones. I don't need to have a lot of competition, so I'm going to aim for two of them. One being the wood that's like, you know, everything is built out of, and another that's maybe a little darker to provide a little bit more of that grounding element. Focus in on what feels and looks natural and authentic, otherwise known as noble materials in your space, and then we can start layering in some color, but we want it to be in those natural tones that feel authentic to that space. So focus in less on patterns, more on color, things that are natural and moodier to make that space feel luxurious and elevated and timeless and classic. Speaking of making your home feel timeless and classic, I love interior design. It is my life's passion, just like many of you that are watching and our subscriber family who we would love to have you as a part of. Please take a moment, hit that subscribe button and join us. Become a part of our GarrettLeChic family. We post interior design related content to help you elevate your home, to have a little bit of fun, and to learn a little bit more. So we would love to have you as a part of our family. Please hit subscribe, and I would also greatly appreciate if everyone watching could give this video a like. Hi, Beast. Hi there. Hello. Hi. What's the matter? What are you interested in, huh? He knows I have a secret treat here. This dog would do anything for a treat. You all want to see how Arden is? See how he is. Come here. Come here. And of course now he's gonna crunch it up and eat it on the sofa, but that was cute. While Arden enjoys his little treat, let's talk about the next dated style that is actually timeless and I secretly love, and that is mid-century. Now, mid-century obviously is very popular right now, or it was, and it kind of comes in and out, but there's two separate niches of mid-century that I want to talk to you about. And when I say niches, I mean like there's mid-century architecture and then there's mid-century furniture pieces. I don't personally feel like the two of them belong together. I think if you have a mid-century home with mid-century pieces, it feels like a time capsule. And that to me is like, okay, but I love a mid-century home done in Hollywood Regency. I love a colonial home with mid-century furniture pieces. So if you have a mid-century home, respect the home, respect the details and the elements, and if you're doing renovations on it, you're doing updates on it, try to be as authentic as you can be. Don't just go to this tile store and be like, yeah, that's cute, okay, it'll work. Well, yeah, but okay, but how can we take that and do it more mid-century? Maybe it's the shape of the tile, maybe it's the actual color or the finish of it. Those sorts of things are great. But when it comes to mid-century furniture, I love to mix in a good mid-century piece to a lot of different spaces. And I always say, add an antique or add a piece of vintage to a space. Well, I say vintage because it could be mid-century. It doesn't have to be an antique. You can get a really cool vintage mid-century piece and bring that in. Now, here's the important thing when you are decorating with mid-century, be it a mid-century home or mid-century furniture pieces. Don't do everything mid-century. And I would go as far as to say, don't do everything Colonial, don't do everything Hollywood Regency. Like, none of these styles, you should stick to that closely and do every single thing in. I love to mix different things together. So if you're doing mid-century home, add some postmodern into there to have a really fun and vibrant space. But if you're doing mid-century furniture pieces in a colonial home, great, mix a few of them in to give a little bit of a reference to get that modern feeling without committing to every single piece being that. One more thing that's interesting about mid-century design is that there's overlap within it. So if you look at authentic mid-century homes that still have a lot of their furniture, you'll see that mid-century sofas have a lot of tufting on them, for example. That's not a modern detail. That's a more classic detail. And a lot of the wood tones used, a lot of the pieces, there's a lot of Oriental inspiration used in mid-century design that I would not say is particularly modern. I would say is very classic or timeless or traditional. So mid-century can be a mix of things. It's nice to have reference points to it in a space without committing to every single thing being that style, especially in a mid-century home. Now, another style that a lot of people view as being dated that I think is secretly timeless is actually Mediterranean. And Mediterranean has a couple of niches. Obviously, we know like the 1920s Spanish architecture. Yeah, nobody's questioning whether that's timeless or not. Okay, we're talking more about that sort of Tuscan influence or, coastal Mediterranean influence on homes. A lot of people view it as being dated because it can be a little bit heavy. And I will give it that. The heaviness is something that maybe you should work on upgrading or eliminating out of those spaces, but that Mediterranean influence has always been timeless and classic. Always, always, always. I mean, you can look back through historic architecture, looking at that 1920s Spanish design. You also have Italionettes from the 1800s. Like, these are really classic styles of architecture that serve as influence for a lot of these Mediterranean style homes that were built in the early 2000s, but maybe we're just not seeing as much right now. And here's the thing with those spaces. They tend to be heavy, they tend to have darker colors and more ornate finishes. And those are the things we want to neutralize a little bit. So like a Tuscan style kitchen, they tend to be built with really good quality, but just really dark materials. So if you say, I really love the wood cabinetry, okay, let's brighten and update the walls a little bit to be a creamier color, like an antique white really works beautifully with a Tuscan style home. And then we upgrade the countertops or potentially the flooring to be something a little bit brighter so that we get some more light. It feels more refreshed. It has more of that Italianette feeling versus some of that heavier Tuscan style. And with some of the Mediterranean style homes, I personally think it's all about the furnishings. Furnishings in Mediterranean style homes can be so heavy, so weighty, so ornate, while simplifying them and going for something that's a little more neutral and actually a little more streamlined, not contemporary, not modern, but just more streamlined, can be a really good way to update those spaces, make them feel luxurious, expensive, gorgeous, stately, and a lot of these spaces are designed to have heavier furniture, so they're a larger scale, like bigger floor plans, more space. Using furniture that's more streamlined actually will make those spaces feel bigger and allow you to focus in on some of the architectural details that they may have. A lot of these spaces have arched windows and beautiful trim details and, oversized moldings, and we want to see all of that, okay? I don't want it to be distracted by that by, a big clunky sofa. I want to see all of that. So using streamlined or simplified color schemes and furniture pieces is going to let you do that. Here's the most important takeaway about this entire video about anything you hear in design. Your home will always feel timeless and classic if it reflects your style and the things you really like, as opposed to feeling like that's the thing that belongs here and what everybody else is going to want to see. Focus in on what you like and your home will always be timeless and classic. Now that we talked about some dated interior design styles that are actually classic, let's talk about some dated trends that are not and are never coming back. Be sure you check out that video right over here, and I will see you over there.